to the Expanded Woman Network podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons, and my co-host, Misty Willis, is not with us at the moment, but she'll be here shortly. I want to welcome our guest today, Amy Lee. She's a mindset expert who works predominantly with empath entrepreneurs. And through her signature programs and coaching, she has assisted in the transformation of thousands of business owners from anxious and unaware to empowered and abundant. Her unique law of attraction-centric approach marries gratitude and personal value. She strives to leave her clients with an affinity for the finer things in life and a deep belief in their worthiness for those experiences. I want to welcome Amy onto the show today. Welcome.
Hey there, Sherry. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. We're so grateful for you to be here and share all this amazing uniqueness with the rest of our guests today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited about this podcast. I was telling my husband this morning, the energy over here is just so high vibe, and I really feel at home over here. So I'm really pumped to do this.
That makes me so happy because that is literally all about what I am. I am an over-the-top, silly, playful person, and I love having people on the show that mirror and project that all over to others. The fun.
Absolutely. I love the fun too.
So let's start out. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, how you got started in all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am one of those cookie cutter people that watched the movie The Secret. I watched it while I was in college, sponging off of my parents. And I remember watching it, and we talk all the time, you and I, we've chatted offline, we talk about resonance and when things kind of are more of a remembrance than a learning. And everything that came through in that message was just, oh, I already know this. Oh, this is just a confirmation. And so once I was plugged into that awareness again and remembered all of that, it was easy to just start manifesting things. So what ended up happening was, I really, really wanted to kind of create a career where I could teach the law of attraction, where I could really kind of help empower people that they knew all this information already too. And I was able to stumble into a network marketing company pretty pretty early. So that, and my goal was to be able to take that and bring that to that network marketing community and their people, and do that work that way. And that isn't really how it ended up going. I was phenomenally successful. I was able to do really incredible things as a result of that, but that little piece was still missing, that piece of truly being able to empower people just based on who they were, not on a company, not on a value system, not on anything else. So after a while, despite incredible wealth, incredible success, I decided to go out on my own, and I walked away from my incredible network marketing career and started over coaching. And the people that I love to coach are empaths and highly sensitive people like myself, because I truly think that we are a group of people that when we don't know what's going on and we're not aware of how incredible we are, we tend to kind of give ourselves the bum's rush, and we think that we're meant to suffer and we're not meant to have the finer things. And so it's crucially important for me that I get in there and say, no, not only are you divinely, intended to have this, but you should have it even more because of the work that you're doing. This is kind of your payment, so to speak, from the universe. And so, yeah, it's just been phenomenal. The people that I've met, the transformations I've been able to be part of, the collaborations, meeting folks like you, it is beyond my wildest dreams of what I expected for my life and for my role as a light worker.
Yeah, and it goes back, when I look back on my own awakening in 1997, and then even just fast forward a little bit to 2002 when the movie The Secret came out. I mean,
is that what it was? I didn't even know.
It's 2002 because my first mentor was Michael Beckwith from the movie The Secret, and that was in 1997, so many years before The Secret even came out. And one of the things that happened is they let everybody who was involved, because his organization was Religious Science, which was, established through Ernest Holmes. And all of the people that were involved within that organization got to preview the movie first. And that's when Abraham was still in the movie, because initially Abraham was in the very first movie. And so anyway, long story short, one of the things for myself is I had really, really not understood why I was so sensitive. Because from the time I was a little girl, I was very sensitive. Like, I knew certain things. And during my era, because it's so funny, I'm right on the cusp of baby boomers. And what is it? The next one, is it Generation X is the next one? Baby boomer.
So.
I mean, I'm literally, because I was born in 1965, so I'm literally on the cusp. And that whole era was a very, very fear-based era. And that sensitivity that I felt, that natural sensitivity, was always squashed like a bug. And so I love what you're sharing around sensitivity and what we now call empaths. Could you speak a little bit about, that empath? Because I know that's really what you're really working with, is very highly sensitive people.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of a little bit of a juxtaposition between empaths and highly sensitive people. Highly sensitive folks are essentially folks who they feel their own emotions and their own senses heightened. Okay, so they get more of a sensation out of those things. However, an empath, can be highly sensitive, and usually is. But the other thing about that is that they actually feel energy from other energetic beings. So for example, like here we are sitting here right now, and even though you and I are connecting over a channel, I can feel your energy, and I can kind of, I can't put it into words, like English words, but I am aware of how you feel in your body because I'm an empath. And so, and there's lots of empaths. I mean, it's funny when you start talking about this, a lot of people get defensive and they're like, well, you're not better than me, or this isn't anything. We're all empaths. Yes, absolutely we are. But there are definitely some of us that are much more in tune to that, and that height, that sense is heightened, just like any other talent that a person has. Maybe you're really good at basketball, maybe you're a phenomenal writer, but whenever you start talking about traits like this, people just get super like, you're not better than me. No, I'm not better, I'm just different. So an empath is a person who actually can absorb energetic frequency from, thanks, Anna, from another being, okay? So that is the biggest difference. And I think what happens is, good morning, Cindy. I think that the biggest thing that happens there is that if you don't know that's happening, and you don't know that that's coming from somewhere else, you're like an air traffic control tower, and you're constantly processing information and energy and energetic frequency from other beings that you're not aware they're not you. So it's like if somebody came in and just started piling papers on your desk, and you were done with them, and then they were like, oh, hold on, here's more, and you're like, hold on, I gotta go make dinner, I've got to do this, nope, sorry, you got to deal with this, and it's like not even yours. So that's basically what people.
I totally get it, because that's what I have been my whole life, highly, highly sensitive. And that's why I like talking about these subjects, because I feel that it's so important to educate society, to bring this information forward. I used to say, talk to people who are ready to hear. But then I heard something that Oprah Winfrey said at one point. She said that she's not here to convince people of their truth. She's here to spread a message and move forward. And that's why this topic, I feel, is we're coming into a time of our own, where we're really helping other women, and probably men too, to really tap in to that listening side of that as well. Because for me, like I said, highly sensitive, I used to have to take medication when I was a child because I would feel enormous anxiety. And I didn't know how to obviously center and ground myself at that point in my life. And so let's speak to that a little bit. I want to talk about what are tools and resources that people can use, and to become more aware if that's happening inside of them.
Yeah, that is a great question. And there are so many different ways. I can tell you a couple that you probably already know. You can hit, absolutely, Sheena. I know, totally. There's a couple that you probably already know are things like music, right? Turning on music that calms you or pumps you up. I know I have like a real like go hard girl playlist, which, I put on whenever I'm doing things that are kind of intimidating for me or things that maybe don't necessarily, that scare me. I have a technique I use called energy programming, and I'm sure. So one of the fun things about me is that I make up a lot of things, and then I find out down the road they're actually NLP or they're actually something. So if I tell you this and you're like, hold on, that's blah, 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 it's just because I don't know any better. It's not because I'm trying to.
Yeah.
So energy programming is something that I do. And what I do is I actually imagine a time when I had a certain feeling that I'm trying to conjure. So like if I want to feel joyful or I want to feel content or calm, one of the great ones, if you want to feel abundant, like think about the moment you cashed your tax refund, if you get one, right? In that moment, you're like, I can buy this, I can buy that, I can go on a trip. And when you feel like you're back there, kind of like Mary Poppins, how she jumps through the painting,
Yep.
when you feel that moment, you can feel that energy again, as if you're there. And the thing about that is that your subconscious doesn't know the difference between you actually being there and you being here. So when you start to conjure that feeling and then you just magnify it in your body, hi, Mike. And then before you know it, you're back in your body in that place. And you're like, hold on, but I brought that feeling with me. And then you're like, wait a second, I can feel any feeling I want to feel at any time, anywhere, anytime. And then you can just do that. So when you start to feel yourself feeling anxious, be like, well, how do I want to feel? Right now, I want to feel abundant and excited. Maybe I think of Christmas morning when I was 7. Maybe I think of walking down the aisle. And then when you go back there in your mind, those energies just kind of compound until before you know it, you were literally right back there. So that's another one that I absolutely love. And you had mentioned grounding. Grounding is so good because, the earth, it has, we talk about the Schumann resonance is the earth's heartbeat. It's the frequency that the earth is vibrating at. And anytime that you put your feet on the ground outside, bare feet, you are actually connecting to that resonance and harmonizing the resonance in your body with the resonance of the earth. So anytime you do that, you are creating, once again, that equilibrium, that connection between you and source energy. And that can also be very calming.
I like that you shared that because that's, a lot of times I work, on the computer all day. And there's those moments because I listen to my gut, that gut side of me. I'm a gut authority. And so when I listen to that, you too?
Yeah, because we both have that sacral human design thing that,
yeah. And so I listen to that side. And so I'll walk outside with my bare feet and just feel the ground, and I'll take deep breaths, and I literally open myself up, my conscious awareness, to just let my gaze look all over the place and see what, that inside part of me is, being drawn to and what's calling to me from the outdoors. And if I just take a deep breath in and I just give myself that time, that pleasure, that joy that you're talking about, I can feel this. I call it coming from the right below the belly button is what I call the Christ consciousness. It's the what we could call the divine soul, the blue soul. And so when we pull that energy up to the brain, what happens is this is the throne. This is where we want to be. We want to be at the throne. And so when you're pulling that energy up from the spine, oh my gosh, this whole new activation happens in us. And so I love that. I love that you shared that part. And just like you said, I do the other side too. And I think people need to know these tools to experience that. I have a moment, I have this moment when we used to go to Lake Tahoe in the when I was a little girl. and it was a place called Zephyr Cove, and I could still see my smile on my face as a little girl, and pulling that into the now moments, and just
you
really
can't help it. You start to smile. Like when I think about walking down the aisle and the first time I saw my husband saw me in my wedding dress and how he felt and how I felt. When I pull that into my body, it's like overwhelming. It's like a good drowning, like I can't breathe. And I think that, you can create that with any feeling. And I think, going back to that, a lot of people, they want to conjure things and experiences. And it's like, but at the end of the day, what you really want is the feelings you get from having those things and those experiences, right? I mean, if I was to say to you, you can have anything you want, but you're not going to feel anything, it's just going to be a thing, you'd be like, no thanks, I'm good. So being able to get to that feeling, you can skip over all that BS, all that, having to have the things. If you already feel the feeling, well, then the things are secondary. And once those things become secondary, they come flying at you like projectiles. Like all of a sudden, you've got the money, you've got the house, you've got the car, you've got the pool, you've got the trips, because you don't need them. And that is the big thing, that people are striving to get these things. And it's like, you can do this right now. Go feel those feelings, and those things, they'll follow you around like that girl, like that guy in high school that really wanted your number but didn't know how to tell you. It was behind every locker.
Exactly. So let's start from the beginning, because I really like to break this down and explain this to people who are just starting out, who are hungry to hear this information, but they don't know where to begin. And they're starting out in that analytical, that skeptical side of themselves, and they're saying, oh, this is airy fairy thinking, but down deep at the core of their soul, that part of them is really saying, yes, I want to know more. So let's talk about that for a second. Where would you start with people who are in that part of themselves and want to get started on shifting this for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the first thing that you have to do is you have to make a decision. You have to decide that you're going to believe, because if you don't believe in this and you do all the work, but you're really not thinking that it's going to happen, it's going to prove you right? Because as the universe says, your wish is my command. So I have a belief that when it comes to the law of attraction and manifesting and all that juicy stuff, there are two reasons why you ever don't get what you want. And we just talked about one of them. You don't believe. You don't, hey, Tiffany, yes, those shifts. Oh my goodness, yes, yes. So the first one is that you don't believe that the outcome is going to produce, you don't believe that what you're doing is going to give you the outcome that you want, okay? That's not usually what it is. What it truly usually is that you don't believe you deserve it. So what I have to do is I have to go in a lot of times with clients, and you'll find that you'll have to do this with yourself, and there's a lot of inner work to do, because for whatever reason, and especially again with empaths, right, because a lot of us have been through different emotional abuse situations, or have been neglected, or have been through traumatic experiences, we tend to have really low opinion about our value and our deservingness to have the things that we want. And so the first step is to really, really dig down deep and understand that by virtue of the fact that you took your first breath and you're here, you were chosen by some higher power to have this experience. Ergo, these are all things that are your divine right. And that includes wealth, happiness, health, fulfillment, all these juicy things. Period. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you were born to. Those are your divine rights. And so we have to go back and do a lot of work there, because what happens is when you start teaching just the law of attraction and you don't address this underlying part of the iceberg, you get people that rapidly manifest. I mean, like all of a sudden they've got $10,000 or a car or something. And then that terror barrier clicks and they go, wait a second, but this isn't meant for me. I don't deserve this. This isn't for me. And it all comes backsliding, and then they're right back where they were. So, you don't want to have like yo-yo manifesting. So it's important that you go back to that core. And the easiest way to do that, right, is to look at yourself as someone else. And so I have a really amazing exercise that I do. And I'll do it with you guys right now. So
please, let's do it.
Okay, so you're walking along and you find a puppy by the side of the road, okay? And this puppy has, mange, it probably got hit by a car, it's bleeding, all these horrible things. And you're on your way to work, right? You're walking to work. Do you pick up the puppy or do you just leave it, right? So we're empaths, we're highly sensitives. We're like, heck yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm meeting the president. I'm grabbing that puppy and taking him to the vet. Awesome. So think about what that feels like, that guardian energy, that protector, that part of you that wants to provide. That puppy, you don't even care, why it ran in the road. Maybe it just bit a kid, but you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about this precious life. Now I want you to change one thing about this scenario. As you get closer and closer and you go to pick up the puppy, it's not a puppy at all. It's you. Now feel that energy and how you just threw that puppy, that you, across the yard. It probably ran in front of a car. It probably bit a kid. It probably didn't deserve it. That energy that you're feeling, that is what is keeping you from manifesting. That energy is what you've got to dismantle. And that's what people are dealing with. So that's where it's got to start. You've got to be able to look at yourself as a separate entity and feel compassion and feel empathy and feel like that person deserves everything, as if it was your twin standing right next to you. Mm-hmm. And until you can go there, manifesting is just going to elude you. So that's where they definitely have to start.
It's so interesting that you say that, because so much of it for myself on my own journey has been being able to observe those sort of things for myself, but without attached emotion. And being able to look at it, because I feel that everything is a part of myself. So if something's showing up in my moment, whatever it is, I have to take accountability because it's a part of myself. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of years, because I'm an empath, I would get so tied in to, just as what you were saying earlier, what's wrong with me? Why does all this keep happening? It's so emotional. I could feel it deep at the core of my being. So sad. But then when I realized, wait a minute, I can have power over this. I can look at it from a place of, thank you. Thank you for showing me what you're showing me, because now I can take back my power. And mm-hmm. now I can release it and let it know that it served me for a time. It served me to help me know myself better. And then I can now release it and then own who I truly am, like what you're saying, the beauty, the worthiness, the deservingness. And so much for me has been the willingness to practice these practices that you're talking about in the moment, as if this is all there is, as if today mm-hmm. is all there is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that is your higher consciousness is here guiding you. And it's, it's as involved as it wants to be. And so in all those moments, when you rise into that higher level, when you take yourself to that place where you're like, I don't believe this yet, but I believe this. I believe it faith-wise, but I'm not sure that I buy into it yet. Whenever you take yourself to that, that unwavering faith place, and you're vibrating in such a high place, that's that moment where you're like, hold on a second, like, I do have this, I do. And you take that, and that is how you propel your experience to the people you help, if you're a coach, or if you're a teacher, or even if you're a parent. Being able to say, hey, I've been there, I've been through it, and here's what this looks like. And even being able to heal those people that come into your life. It's a quantum healing because it heals you. It goes back in and it pours that love and that love and that light back into you as a person and as a soul.
Well, that's so true, because you realize there's only oneness. There's only one, and we're a reciprocal flow. So what's showing up in our now moments are a lot of times what we're seeking, because I always like to say the saying, what you're seeking is always seeking you. Mm-hmm. And so it's like when people show up so many times in the moment, I'll say to them a specific thing that just comes through me. It literally just breathes through me to the individual. And they'll say, oh my God, how did you know? Mm-hmm. And that's when it looks like we've got Misty coming on here. Here she is.
I'm so sorry. My last appointment just like took forever, and I'm like, I gotta get on, but it's okay. It is what
I
it
was
is.
like, where's our girl?
And I'm crying over here. I'm not trying.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. So we had a question on here that somebody was asking that I thought would be a great one to. So what do you do now after accepting and leaving things behind?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that once you establish that you want to treat yourself differently and you want to be more of your own advocate, that's when you just kind of start to replace it a little at a time. What we don't want to do is hold ourselves to a standard where we have to change overnight. You are still going to have that negative self-talk. You're still going to have that icky feeling sometimes. Honor that and understand that you're progressing. And remember, a 1% change in a day is still a change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so anything over 50% is tipping the balance the other way. So what I like to do, I like to imagine a little tiny Amy Lee, and she's running on this little timeline, and I like to imagine that as she gets closer and closer to her goal, sometimes I see myself backslide, right? Sometimes I can have a catty moment, and I definitely, I feel like I kind of pull back a little bit, but you have to understand that this is absolutely a progression. It's part of your journey. You're here to do this. This isn't something that you're doing on the way to do the thing that you're doing and it's in the way. This is the journey. This is what you're learning. This is what you're taking back to wherever you go back to. And that's what we're here for. So understanding that that's part of your journey, I would just definitely say to yourself, you know what? I know better than I knew then. And I am taking little baby steps every day to get closer to, enlightenment or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and just give yourself grace. Just know that you weren't born here with all the answers, or, those answers have yet to been unlocked. And so it's really important that you give yourself that time to get to that place, and don't expect miracles on the first day any more than you would from your child or your best friend or your spouse. Well, maybe your spouse you would, but anybody else.
It's funny you say that. Yeah, because you know what? One of the things I like to say to myself that because I'm a believer that through the moments of today, I have volition. And it's in those moments of conscious awareness that I can say to myself, thank you. Every day, in every way, I get better and better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. And closer to whatever that culmination is for you in this existence, whatever that is. If it's to be a teacher, if it's to be an enlightened master, an ascended master, whatever the case may be, whatever you were here to do. And, I heard this the other day. Somebody said, I think it was Dr. Christiane Northrup said that she read, I think maybe it was in A Course in Miracles. No, it was in Eckhart Tolle. And he said that there are millions and millions of souls that have put in an application, so to speak, for getting a place on earth. And only however many of us are here actually got accepted into the program. And so if you think that your life is inconsequential, that you're just here because, your mom and dad decided to have a baby, that is so far from the truth. You are here for a divine purpose. To create the tapestry of this planet, of this collective consciousness, and you won the lottery. Like that is like, how could you ever think that you were not of value, not important when you hear something like that? I mean, it just makes me feel like I've got to go out there and do whatever it is I'm supposed to do.
A sugar boomy boom boom. That's my saying, a sugar boomy boom boom. When you say that, I say, speak it, girl. Tell me more.
Yeah. So, I mean, that to me was like, okay, cool. So everything else doesn't matter, like I'm on my path, I'm going on my path. And as long as I first do no harm, like the Hippocratic Oath or whatever, as long as that's the case, like I'm going to stumble. I'm going to make silly decisions. I'm going to have days where I'm like, oh, you know what? This person showed up so much harder than me. But maybe a different day, I show up hardcore more than them. And oh, by the way, we're all one collective consciousness anyway. So if we're all contributing to enlightenment, it's why when I do interviews in my group, I make sure that I bring in other professionals and I'm like, talk about your lead magnet, talk about your whatever, because someone in my group might resonate with that. and we're all here to do the same work. You know what I mean? So it's really important that you do that, and that you understand that at the end of the day, it's all about the transformation. It's about that transmutation of energy, and who it comes from or where it comes from is really irrelevant as long as it's happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I really resonated with the great, saying give yourself grace. And I tell a lot of people that, and myself, because we're so hard on ourselves about we have to be perfect. And, I struggle with that anyways, but how to be perfect? You have to do it this way. And, I think Sherry and I both in this last year have been like, okay, we don't have to be perfect all the time. Like we can, and I think that's what's so great about you, Emily, is like, you're just so authentic and genuine. And I love the message you put across. And I've been following your empath group here recently, and it's been really, really good. So.
Oh, I'm so glad. I love having you there. I love anytime I see you guys, I'm like, oh, there they are.
Yeah, it's great. It's great group.
So fun. And I love how you've used so much reference to the imagination, because that's one of the mental faculties that a lot of people don't understand how powerful it is and how they can utilize it in a way to be from what they really want. Talk about that a little bit, because I keep hearing you utilize the imagination. Let's tell people how powerful that is.
Absolutely. So if you look at, there was a gentleman named Viktor Frankl, and he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it was all about his time in concentration camps during the Shoah, the Holocaust. And so what he did was he basically visualized an incredible life that he had a reason to live for. And you look at so many people. I mean, imagination, it's a protector. It's a trauma salve. It's a way to escape from whatever's going on that might be potentially harmful or life-threatening. Or, you think about how many little kids, or that Pixar cartoon, the little match girl, right? And she sits there, she lights the matches, and she imagines this incredible life. And unfortunately, she kicks the bucket at the end. But in the interim, during that time, she's keeping herself warm with those feelings, with that imagination of what it would be like to be loved, which is just so bittersweet and heartfelt. But yeah, I mean, if you think about your subconscious versus your consciousness, and again, we talked about how your brain doesn't know the difference, you can create incredible things with just your imagination. My daughter, she's 8 now. And since, she was a little girl, she had a hard time falling asleep because she's a thinker like me. And I would tell her, just close your eyes and imagine Disney and imagine princesses. And after a while, she got really good at falling asleep. And I was like, Alana, what changed? What's different? And she just said, Mommy, I just started watching movies in my eyes. And I was like, okay. And so now at 8 years old, she's a pro manifester. She knows exactly what to do. She's reading The Secret right now because she's just a bookworm. But yeah, I mean, being able to show children and show clients, like, it all starts with your imagination, because if you don't know what you want, how are you supposed to manifest it? If you don't know what it is, how can you align with what you don't know? And so you're like, oh, I want a nice house, I want a nice car, I want this, and the universe is like, okay, throw me a bone here. Like, where? Like, on Earth? Do you want it on Mars? Like, we need a little bit of direction here. So that imagination is your ability to kind of like tap the universe on the shoulder and say, hey, we're co-creating right now. So this is what I want. And again, and I can even hear it in my own head just from years of that, that negative self is in there going, yeah, but why do we deserve that? Why do we deserve that? Well, the answer to that is because you are just as much a part of creation as you are the creation itself. You're the creator and the creation. So you deserve that because you made it in the first place. So, it's like you make yourself an apple pie and you're like, oh no, I can't have that. Why not? You made it. Dig in. Throw some ice cream on there.
You better believe it.
I'm not turning down apple pie.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I love it. What it reminds me of too is I love that you told the story of Viktor Frankl, because recently I met his grandson. And the cool thing about what his grandson shared about the story is just so, oh my God, I got the chills as I'm about to say this, but
I
just
did
so
too.
much, yeah, just so much about what you said, but what he really tied in to imagining this amazing life when he was in the concentration camps and all that. And despite what the appearance around him was, he tapped into meaning. He tapped into the feeling. He says it's the meaning that we want to tap into, because it's in that meaning that we open ourselves up to this unlimited how. Because he said the infinite universe can bring to us that tapped in feeling that we're imagining in the picture we're creating. And he said, then when you realize, I mean, look at all of the ways that it could show up that you could never analyze, rationalize, or scrutinize in, that part of yourself that wants to break everything down.
Absolutely. And if you look at, I mean, you want to talk about not being able to, imagine possibilities that could happen. Look at COVID-19. Who saw that coming? Right. Who knew that we would be where we were with the light? If someone said that to you, you'd tell them they were crazy. Mm-hmm. And that just goes to show you, that you don't necessarily know all of the different outcomes. We think we do. We're like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What about the infinite amount of things that could possibly happen outside of the realm of what you're thinking? How about you do this? How about instead you just intend the outcome and you let the universe worry about how we're getting there? Mm-hmm. There's, this saying, it's like if you, you went to the mall with your grandmother growing up and she didn't like the highway and you drove out of town, up the street, down the road, under the bridge, over here, over there, and it took you 45 minutes to get to the mall, and that's how you thought you got there. And then one day when you're, a teenager, you go with your best friend, she takes a right, she hops on the highway, and you're there in 10 minutes, and you're like, what? And it's like, well, you didn't know that way, so you kept going the way that you knew, but the universe is like, I can teleport you there. You know what I mean? And it's like we don't make that connection that there might be another way, that you don't have to be dialed into the exact path that you think the universe is going to take. Don't worry about the path. You do your thing, you feel high vibe, you get those juicy energies going, you figure out what you want, and you let the universe drive the car. And it just might take you there in a spaceship, but you're not in charge of that. That's not your responsibility, at least while you're on Earth. I mean, I can't say that for when you're, on in another place and you're on the other side of the creation. But for now, your job is to say, this is what I want. This is what's going to get me where I want to go. And you dial it up like you buy something from Amazon. Check out, okay, it's on its way. That's where we need to be. And like I said, if you can't get to that place, that's where you've got to start, is back with that self-love, with that self-compassion, with that understanding that you deserve it. Did you breathe? Are you alive? Can you hear me? Good, you deserve it. Period. End of story.
Wow. That reminds me of that meme, the entrepreneur meme, where it's like you start here and you think it's going to be like this, but it's like all the way up and down, all around. Yeah, that's how we all are. I mean, I think the biggest thing is if we allow ourselves to kind of get in that flow and just follow along versus try to make things happen or control that what's going on, it's a whole different story. And it's so much easier. Like, I think that going up and down and all around gets a lot smoother.
Absolutely. And also, like, if you think about, a caterpillar, right? Like, if your caterpillar is going into butterfly, you don't rip the cocoon open halfway and go, oh, this is goo, this is going awful. But yet when it comes to the entrepreneurial journey, we're all about opening the goo, right? We're like, but look, I'm emulsified right now. Well, yeah, but give me 5 minutes and let's get you to that butterfly. But we look at the process while we're in it instead of believing and knowing and intending and manifesting that end result. And so that's kind of where we have to train our brains to go, no, I'm not looking yet. No, I'm not looking yet. I'm not going to look at it yet. and the more that we do that, and the more that we get those little wins, those little manifestations, those give us the energy and the evidence to build those higher manifestations. And then before you know it, you're doing things like, conjuring pyramids and who knows what else. And that is where consciousness is going. And I know both of you guys completely agree with that. Like, consciousness is going there. We are elevating, we are ascending into a new dimension. Our brains are so much more equipped than they were 50 or even 10 years ago, right? And consciousness is going there. So anybody who thinks like, oh, I'm never going to be able to, move a pyramid with my eyes, it's like, you don't know that definitively. And that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah.
No, that's so true, because, 23 years ago when I had my very first near-death experience, that was one of the things that was shown to me is that this time right now that's happening, there's going to come a point, and I prophesized this 23 years ago, that we will be able to manifest instantaneously, that we will have elevated the vibrational frequency to where we can pull it to us instantaneously. It's like all of the things that Jesus taught, how many thousands of years ago. Basically, all he was teaching to all of us is that he didn't have anything we didn't have ourselves, that we have everything. We have, you can call it the Father, because I like to call it Father, Mother, Seed. Son was seed. And we can all do that. We can all, boom, be consciously aware of that, our healing powers, our healing abilities. And so much when you talk about COVID-19, I truly believe that this whole experience was not only to replenish the entire earth, but it was to bring us all back inside so that we can start tapping into that true nature, that true self. One of the things you said that I thought was so vital, it was something that Michael Beckwith said many, many years ago. He says, what if there was only good? What if, we could shed the belief in evil, the contrast, we could shed the belief in, that things weren't possible, and only live in the attributes of what we could call God, the universe, our higher power, infinite intelligence, and recognize that we are not limited by anything.
No, we're really not. And the other day I was talking to my husband, when you go to a nature preserve and you walk out and there's a map and it's like a horseshoe, right? They don't want you getting lost in the woods because they don't want to go look for you. So you essentially, when you're walking into the woods, you're going in this horseshoe, where you get halfway, you're kind of coming back out. But if you think about it, by virtue of the fact that you're walking into the woods, you're technically already walking out. You're on your path back because it's a horseshoe. So it's almost like that's how good and evil are, right? Like everything is going to come back to source. Everything is going to elevate. Even the evil, or what we consider to be evil, is going back to good. Ergo, it's on the road to good. You know what I mean? And so everything that happens is good. Like, it's not good in this moment, but it's on its way back to the car, right? So it's on its way back to consciousness. So when you think of it that way, and you think, okay, this horrible thing happened, and, Dr. Sue Morter calls it the bus stop conversation. She says that, you're all sitting up in wherever before you come to Earth, and you're like, okay, I want to have an experience where I have to experience radical forgiveness. I'm thinking maybe a way to do that might be to lose my whole family in a car accident. And then you look at the rest of the people and you're like, who will be the driver? Who will help me have this experience? And it's like profound on a level that your body can't even process, right? But it's so true. Like, what is, like, these bad things that are happening to us, they're bad, but what are they creating? What kind of enlightenment? What kind of compassion? What kind of relearning is happening as a result of that? And when you look at it that way, when you have that perspective, and we don't have it all the time, right? We still yell and scream in traffic and, shake our fist, and we still get upset. But when you can step back for a moment and have that level of understanding and consciousness, it's kind of like, it's a really magical moment, because you're like, okay, hold on a second. So this is all for something, and it does have a plan. And oh, wait, I'm part of that plan. I'm just as much a part of that as I am this.
Yep.
And that's when you have to stop thinking about it, because you just get so completely overwhelmed, and then you can't pour the coffee and it's all over the floor because you're like.
Yeah, I get it. Misty?
No, I was just going to say that's so true. The thoughts that we're having now, and how you're just sharing all this information is like, this is what we need to bring to the table for everyone to know. And it's no longer about keeping it a secret. Everybody needs to figure it out so that we can all be in that same place and all be awakened. And, the COVID thing, I think, has really helped a lot of people understand that. So much so when they're seeking out different ways of life and seeking out time for themselves. I'm one of them. It's like I was working my tail to the bone. I was like, oh, I'm going crazy. Now it's a whole different mentality. It's like, I'm just going to work when I want to work and feel good about that, and not overstep the boundaries there. So anyway, that's my little tangent.
No, I don't think that's a tangent at all. And I think it's super, super true that it's done exactly that. It's kind of shown us like what's really important, and what, all these things that we claim to espouse, all these values, well, they're sitting right in front of us now. Our kids are running underfoot. This is what we always wanted. I want to be home with my kids. Well, here you go. Oh, it's not what you wanted. Okay, then let's figure out, where do those values really lie? And that's what COVID's done, is it's really called you into question what your values are, what you truly want out of this life, because here it is. Here's what you said you wanted. Oh, this isn't it? Okay, then let's dig down deeper and let's figure out what that really looks like, and what does that fulfillment look like. And, another thing, like you were saying, Sherry, going within, there are people that in this moment didn't realize their ears were ringing all the time. They didn't realize that they were anxious in certain social situations. They didn't realize that they could feel the energy of people who had passed on. And all of a sudden, because of this quieting down of society, we're able to really kind of feel what's resonating and feel the energetic pulses in our body in a way that we've never allowed ourselves to do before. Because we don't have that energy congestion anymore. And so that has been phenomenal. It's given us the chance to finally press download on that upgrade that, has been coming through. Okay, I have the time now. And so many people, it's like, especially you guys are entrepreneurs, so many circles. It's like, if you're not getting this done during COVID and you don't have this done and you have all this extra time, and it's like, no, narcissist, sit down. Because here's the thing. This is time for us to process. This is time for us to breathe. This is time for us to reflect. This is time for us to catch up for all that consuming we've done for the last 5 years. So no, I'm not going to go out and make a bunch of content that's going to be irrelevant in 3 months when, I can laser things with my eyes. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait. I'm going to absorb. I'm going to feel. I'm going to, acclimate myself to this new environment, and I'm going to do it in my own time, and I'm gonna hold that space for my clients who are doing the same thing, and for the community as well. And I know you guys are doing the same thing. And I love that you said that, Misty. I love that you said, like, yeah, I'm taking this time for myself. I'm taking this time to pour into myself. I'm taking this time to get myself to a place where I'm ready for the next thing. It's like when you scale a mountain, right? You take the Sherpas with you. You can't go right up the mountain immediately, because if you do that, you get what's called elevation sickness. Yep. You can actually die from that. So you have to climb a couple, stay at one of the camps, acclimate to that elevation, and then you do some more climbing. So this COVID situation is a great place to plateau, to have some really juicy experiences, to drink a little more wine, to have a couple more bubble baths, to really soak in the human experience, because the climb is coming, girlfriend. The climb is coming.
It is.
This is the time to just kind of hang out and say, okay, I am processing, I am nurturing, I am healing. And when it's time to go, we'll throw those backpacks on and we'll be right back up that mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been feeling that inner stirring too. It's just like this energy is like kind of building and building and building. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Something's going to happen. What is it? I've been feeling that probably since November, December of last year.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
think me
okay,
too.
I'm ready for whatever it is. Just bring it on, you know.
You were born for whatever it is.
Yeah,
That's why you picked to be here now, because you were like, I'm on that team. Put me on that team.
Put me here. Yes. Put me in, coach.
Yes. And you know, it's so funny. I like that. Anytime you give me the chance to dance, let me do it. Let's go. Woo, yeah. No, you know, it's so funny that you guys are talking about this, because I don't know if you've ever heard of Cryon, but Cryon prophesized in November, and he calls it an activation. It's like Abraham. So he has, you know, ascended masters that speak through him. And he ultimately said, right now, 2020 is about a recalibration of the energy. And that we all need to step away from the old idea that we need to take action. He says what's happened is people don't understand the difference between action of doing, which is utilizing and giving away energy, and doing from an inspired action point. That's something that's come from inward. It's come inward through you, and you are being shown when to take action by holding your whole vibrational field, your whole energy force. And then things come to you. And so, you know, I love this so much about what you've been talking about, because it's a time to recognize that we don't have to pile on all these things that we have to do. That's what strips us of our energy and slows down what we really want.
It does.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about writing extra content. It's not about, oh, this is a great time to write your book. No, this is a great time not to write my book, is what this is. This is a great time to stare out the window and marvel at the rain coming down the pane. You know, this is the time to look in my kids' eyes and really freeze this moment of their wonder and the way that they look at the world. That's what this is. This is my chance to really slow down and be mindful in my life. And that's how I see it. So whenever people get all, you know, high and mighty about how you're supposed to live, that's when I'm like, oh, heck no. You go sit down. You can do that. If you want to go, you know, you want this time to be your entrepreneurial sprint, go for it. But that's not my place in this moment. And I'm not going to let you tell any of my people that that's their place either.
I had that same thing. Like when I first was told I had to close my business, the first 3 weeks, I literally did nothing. I did nothing. And I am not a person that does nothing. I mean,
she's not
all the way, but I just felt that need to just like disconnect. I even wasn't on social media as much as I normally am for business purposes. And I just like had to reconnect with myself and figure out, okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to go, and not worry about the day-to-day stuff. I just kind of sat there and literally sat there on the couch, and it felt so good. It felt so good.
And you needed it. And you're in, and somewhere up there, you ordained, along with the rest of consciousness, that we all needed it.
Yeah.
You know, we're part of both of that. And that it's so hard to wrap your head around, but then you just kind of start saying it, even though you don't understand it yet. At least that's what I do. And then you're like, one day maybe I'll get it. But for now, I just understand that it's kind of, I'm in these two places. I was part of the idea, and I'm part of, you know, I'm part of the audience, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at that.
Yeah. So let's talk about your group and your empaths and how you're working with them within your group. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have a group. It's called Unstoppable Empaths, and I absolutely love my community. It's full of the most incredible people who have kind of been bouncing around the idea of, am I an empath? Am I not an empath? Do I feel sometimes like an empath? And one of the things that I really, you know, try hard to do is I don't make anybody get an empath tattoo. You don't have to come in and swear your loyalty to empathiness forever. I very much feel like it's an exploratory community. We talk very much about the law of attraction. I have a program. It's called the Unstoppable Empath System. And I actually have a free ebook, which I'll give you guys to put in here if I haven't already, that you guys can give to your listeners to have. that outlines the unstoppable empath system, which is the acronym empaths, and it breaks down into energy management, manifestation, personal power, affirmations, time management, healthy boundaries, and self-care. And through that acronym, you are able to explore all of the things that most empaths feel like are weaknesses, things that, oh, I'm an empath, and so, you know, woe is me. We take those things, we flip them on their heads, and now all of a sudden you're using those to create more abundance, more wealth, more light, more love, more of those things, knowing, you know, using those gifts the way that they were intended instead of looking at them as a curse. And so that's basically what I do all day long. I just support people and love people and, you know, learn as much as I teach. And the community is incredible. My clients are incredible. I'm so lucky to have soul-aligned people that are where they need to be for me to help them to my highest level. And yeah, I think actually, Misty, you took the first module of my course. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did so far. I'm very auditory. So yeah. I read through a lot and I'm like, okay, then I have to go back and like read it to myself again because I have to hear it too. So I really enjoyed it. And even though I thought it was like, oh, I already know I'm this and blah, blah, blah. But you know, the perspective that you had in there were really amazing. And made me really go into a deeper area of thinking about the gifts that I have. So
yeah. And treating them like gifts, right? Mm-hmm. Not feeling like it's like, oh, I'm an empath, so I'm always so energetically exhausted. Okay, well, you can tell yourself that story.
You don't have
or
to.
You can change it. Exactly. And actually, that energy programming thing that we were talking about before Misty hopped on is actually in that part of that module of the course. So it's yeah.
I love it. So let's put up on here now. How can they get that? Give me the URL for that. Or do you have it, Misty?
Well, I'm adding her website.
Perfect.
Is that on there, Amy Lee?
I think it is, but we're doing a whole revamp of the website. Okay. The link specifically is just unstoppableempaths.com.
Okay, let me put that in there.
Perfect. Yeah, I myself am a visual and kinesthetic person. So, I mean, I can hear you say it, but I need to see a picture. Mm-hmm. And then I need to do something like if I write it down, then I can receive it. Boom, like that.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm an energetic person. So if I feel the energy being conveyed of what it is, as long as it was authentic, I can absorb it. I can tell really quickly. You know, there are certain authors out there who shall remain nameless. When I read their stuff, I'm like, you don't believe this and you didn't say it. You know, this is a copywriter. So for me, it's definitely about the energy. It's about being able to, can I resonate that this person actually feels this or believes this?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. Video is really great for that. And also writing, when someone writes in their own personal voice, I think that helps me as well.
That helps me too. I either have to take notes or like read it back to myself. And I think that I'm that way. Did I spell your website right? Unstoppable Empaths, like that?
It looks weird, but yeah, that's it.
Okay. I had to like check it. I'm like, it does look weird, doesn't it?
It does. It's those darn E's.
But I definitely recommend, I think that the book that you have available is really great. And then even the course that goes along with it afterwards, you know, is definitely worth the time it takes to go through it and everything. So I think they should go visit you for sure.
Aw, thanks.
So what? Yeah. So is there anything that, I mean, I can't believe we went through this quickly. I always hate when the end of our conversations are over because it seems like it just went so quickly.
Yeah, I know. And we could talk for hours. No, I think really the only thing I would just ask is for folks who are out there listening, figure out what it is you want, not what you're supposed to want, not what someone says you want, not what's on TV, not what's in the magazines. Figure out what you truly want. And once you get that picture in your mind, whether it be Pinterest, vision boards, scripting, any of that good stuff, start reverse engineering that and really truly think about what are those feelings? What are the feelings you want to be feeling right now? If you only have a finite amount of feelings left to have in your life, don't you want to be in charge of which ones they are? So I would just say, figure out what it is you're trying to create, those experiences, and then reverse engineer that, and really don't settle for anything less than that.
Yep. I'm trying to teach my kids that right now. Like my younger son, his dad always puts him in soccer, and he doesn't really enjoy soccer. And I was like, what do you really want to do? What would you feel good about? And he's like, I want to play basketball. And my son is like the super shortest kid in the whole world. But I was like, you know what? If you want to play basketball, I think you should go play basketball. And he can figure it out. Maybe he'll be the best free thrower ever. I don't know. But, it makes me excited that, we can feed this knowledge into our children. And they're
right. We're breaking generational curses. We're enlightening a whole new consciousness. And who knows what kind of parents they're going to be, right?
Oh my gosh. Way better than me.
Yeah. Oh,
no, I'm serious. Like way better than me. They better be like twice as good. So.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I love that you brought up the whole generational curses thing, because that's what's happening for me and my daughter right now. I'm breaking my mother's generational curse. My daughter is breaking mine. And so that is going to be stopped for her daughter, that her daughter is coming in and owning her own power and allowing to put her voice, freely, and allowing that special, unique, playful part of my little granddaughter. She's just so over the top fun. And, she does this little, I always say my saying, sugar boomy boom boom. My little granddaughter will move her little hips like that. It's just so cute. But anyway, well, we want to thank you so much for being our guest, Amy Lee. This has just been an amazing conversation. We fully enjoyed this. I want to let heck yeah. I want to let all of our guests and watchers, viewers, thank you for sharing this out on your profiles and your pages. We very much appreciate each and every one of you. We love that you come weekly and listen to the experts that we're sharing with you in their field, and it helps to lift your consciousness and your belief, and you can tap in more to the uniqueness of yourself. You can find us on expandedwoman.com. You can find us on Instagram at expandedwoman, and you can find us in our own women's group, Expanded Woman Business Network. And you can also find us on our business page at Expanded Woman Business Network. Is that right, Misty?
Yes, you got it right.
I got it. All right. Thank you so much. And we will see you next Tuesday. I think we're doing it a little bit of a different. Are we doing it a little bit earlier?
We're going to do 10:30 Central Time next week.
Okay. That'll be what, 8:30 PST?
Yes. 8:30
all right. PST. Until next week, thank you all and have an amazing week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.